Now we do public commentary, that's right. I'm trying to close out the meeting without even doing the public commentary. So with that said, I'm going to open it up now to public commentary. I lost my train of thought there. Thank you. So when you come to the microphone, please introduce yourself with your address.
Our Stadium, Leslie Quinn. First of all, congratulations for hitting 2019, the ground running. I think that, thank you for all the effort you guys put in the preparatory work. I have two comments. One, with the storm coming, what else is new? Do we have any input from JCP&L about the reliability of the network? It might sound familiar to somebody, like a broken record, but it's too late after, we have 2,000 people lose electricity. Do we have a liaison with them? Do we know what the state of the preparation is? Because we have a lot of, let's say, nice talk, okay? But what actually do they do as far as buttressing the reliability of the electric power network in Morris Township, not 200 miles away elsewhere? That's the first thing. I don't expect an answer right now on this, but I'm going to follow up on that. The second thing is the deer culling. Are we waiting for another accident and so on? What's the situation in Morris Township with deer?
So just to address I'll let Mr. Quinn step in a second. We actually have a meeting with JCP&L tomorrow morning. That's right. The new regional director is coming in. He's going to be here with Mr. Quinn to meet with the regional director, hear about their plans, but and I'll let Mr. Quinn speak to it in a second, they've actually done a lot of work. There's been a lot of tree work, cutting back on limbs that endanger the wires, and you can speak to the other things.
Over the last 4 years, they've done a significant amount of work. Some of it BP ordered, others that they've done on their own. The biggest thing is communications and getting the information out, reliable information out on outages and an outage map and phone calls and things like that. There's still some areas that need to improve. When they call somebody and say, your power's back, and it's not, which is an ongoing issue too. But as to reliability, they put in a number of different systems throughout the township that will give additional reliability, secondary systems that they can switch over to the power outage, and they also have a very aggressive tree trimming program. One of the issues with their tree trimming program, it's regulated by the BPU. They can only go 15 feet on either side of the wire. They need a much wider girth to get there to address those trees. Most of the trees that take down the wires are not trees that are in the right-of-way, but trees that are on public property, on private property. They can touch those trees. So it's incumbent upon the residents, if they have bad trees that are in danger of falling or dead, have tree limbs, that they prune them or take them down, because when they come down, then they take out everybody else's power. But I have to give accolades to JCP&L for the work that they've done over the past 4 years to change, their perception of what they were back when we had the storms of Hurricane Sandy and Irene before that, and the nor'easters. They have made significant strides, and they're more the star now than trailing behind the other electric companies, in my opinion.
And I think I heard they put in some kind of new circuit breakers to
isolate
the outages so they don't spread.
Yeah, that's part of the reliability increasing.
But the public also has to realize, we live in a community of trees. One of the reasons I moved out here is because I like trees. And if we want to have trees in the community, some of them are going to fall, and we have to deal with that when that happens. Like Mr. Quinn says, if the property owners maintain their trees and take down dead trees, that will be less of an issue. And to get to your second question about deer culling,
we have an active deer culling program that's run through a gentleman by the name of Steve Summer, and they are out there, and they have been. There's separate places where they can go in the township. It's all regulated as to what. So there has to be 3-acre lots. Have to be township property. They have to have permission from the property owner, but they have been actively out there as part of the deer culling program.
And have we done a recent infrared study to see the deer population?
We have not. We had done one a number of years ago in conjunction with Morris County. It's very expensive to do so, and we did it in conjunction with the county probably 7 or 8, maybe 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Just from my personal observation, I don't see nearly as many deer as I used to.
Do we have
They're in your neighborhood? Okay.
Do we have any statistics of
No.
how many deer accidents we had in the last year? For the sake of argument.
They haven't increased I get the reports every month, and it's, that those numbers have been stable on deer car accidents over the years.
And do you have, another interesting statistic might be the number of deer carcasses we pick up from the side of the road. Do you track that?
Informally, because we don't do it, the county has a contract where the state does it.
Can you share the number? How many accidents are every year?
That's not, I don't have that information on the top of my head. I'm happy to get it for you and give it to you, but it's not something that I bring to meetings.
Okay. I mean, the whole thing is it 2 or it's 22? That type of thing. Thank you very much.
Your second number is probably closer.
Thank you.
Good evening. Happy New Year to you all. My name is George Milken. I live on Springbrook Road. Maybe you've already addressed this issue, but I haven't found it anywhere. But it seems to be a big issue in New Jersey this year, and it's a quality of life issue, and that is recreational marijuana. I'm not talking about medical marijuana, but recreational marijuana. Could you kindly inform me or bring me up to speed about what you have done on this issue and what is your plan going forward, especially with regard to the proposed legislation?
So I can tell you that last year the body had a resolution stating that they were against the passage of that legislation at the state level.
Sent to the governor.
And was sent to the governor. That was last year's body. This year's body has not passed any legislation as of yet. It's our first meeting. My view is that we have to wait to see what the legislation is going to be. Really, we're all guessing at this point what might be coming out of Trenton. There's been a lot of fighting. I don't want to speculate what might be coming, and when it comes, we will deal with it appropriately. But I assume it's going to be state regulated, so I'm not sure what local regulations you might be looking for.
Well, have you read the proposed legislation? This has gone through several committees now. This is coming down to the end here now. This is pretty well codified, written. They're just arguing over what the percentages of taxes are going to be and who's going to get them.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest is pretty much settled. And if we haven't provided comments to that, if we are thinking about partaking, then we should really have, in talking to our assemblyman and our state senator with regard to this, there is a lot in this bill. And one of the things you should be aware of, if you don't opt out, you become a marijuana town. This is in the bill. There's a lot in here that you should really have read this bill already and provided comments to the appropriate places down in Trenton. And I'm a little bit surprised if you're thinking about reversing positions and making our town a marijuana town, you should be really aware of what there is. There's a lot of things in here that, as it's being called, New Jersey is going to be far advanced in marijuana than most other states. We're talking about not only stores for marijuana, we're talking about having coffee houses like for marijuana, where people will go and will partake either indoors or outdoors. We're talking about a lot of different situations, and a lot of this will be out of your hands if you do not opt out. And so I think that you should really form a committee. You should get involved with this. You should read this legislation. You should get in contact with our assembly people. You should be really proactive and you should let us know what is going on. You should brief us and then get our advice and consultation with what we want to see. This is a life issue that's going to affect, one, people who are living here, whether we're going to stay or not, people moving in, businesses moving in, whether that will affect it. If your neighboring towns are marijuana towns, but you're not, maybe there's an advantage. I don't know. What other costs are there going to be to the township because there's now marijuana in the town? Things like talking to Morristown. Morristown and us, we're tied together. They're the whole of the donut. Anything that happens in Morristown radiates out through our township. So if they're going to be a marijuana town, guess what? We're going to be affected. So we should be discussing this with them. I can't more strongly advise you to get involved now. It's already getting late. This legislation is going ahead. There's no stopping it. It's only working out. The big argument now is, what's the tax rate? How much are they going to tax us? Well, there's a lot of ramifications to it, including the health of the people. And that's being overlooked in Trenton. They're saying that there are no side effects. There is a lot to say on that issue that could go on all night here, but I don't intend to, other than to urge you, get involved now. Thank you.
Mr. Moken, before you leave, let me just engage in a little discussion with you. First, I'm not exactly sure what opt-out means, what that would allow us to opt out of, and I'll certainly look into that. But in terms of, and again, my comments about bringing the community into the decision-making process, if you have any specific local legislation that you think would be warranted, that would fit within the state regulations, certainly bring that to our attention.
Well, I can tell you, and it's most of this is read online, and you can pick this all up. There are numerous towns that have already taken action. There are numerous towns that have already passed ordinances that you can consult with and see what their ordinances say if you want to opt out. This has been already done last year, and I think the number of towns that have made an election already are over 100, and that's out of 500 some towns. So there's a lot of proactiveness going on across this state, and that's, I mean, Chatham Township, for one, has already opted out. You can contact them, see what their legislation, their ordinances look like, see why they did it, talk with them, see what was their input. These are all very valuable things. And as I said, even more important is to get to talking with Morristown to find out what's going on, because that's a direct effect on us.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Do you have any comments, Mr. Mancuso? No. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moken.
Mike Sheldrick, 14 Hilltop Circle. I just want to thank Mr. Mancuso for working on raising the penalties for texting and driving. That is horribly, extraordinarily common these days, and I think the penalties should equal or exceed those for driving while intoxicated. So thank you again for your help.
Thank you, Mr.
Good evening, everybody. Patricia Giannaco, 50 Independence Way. Mr. Brazel, you read from what sounded like it was a very comprehensive letter that addressed vaping and the issues. Will that letter be posted on the website?
Wasn't planning on it. It comes from a school, so I mean, I redacted the name of the school off of the paper that I had. I'll discuss that with council. It's a school document, so I don't really think it's
There might be
mine.
a couple of issues, but we could probably put a link to where it could be accessed.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah,
like it's
let
really
me-
important, and it sounds like the author of it did a lot of work in trying to cover the waterfront on the issues.
Mhm.
So I think it would be helpful to the community for it, because I
Yeah.
think it is a great big issue.
Right. I mean, yeah, we could certainly paraphrase what was said there and not print the exact letter and provide you with that information.
That would be
Because
fine.
it quotes the school policy,
Mhm.
and that's their own private document that I don't know is necessarily meant for public consumption.
Right.
It's private consumption, so
They
We'll
might
put
be
them.
happy to have it out there. I don't know, but I mean, that's for
they
us
might
to
be.
decide.
We'll check.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll put something up.
I also want to thank you for the very entertaining exposition of the, for lack of a better term, care and feeding of our sewer system. So you brought a few smiles to me tonight. Thank you, and thanks for all the hard work that you do.
You're welcome.
It's very encouraging to see where you're headed and what you're trying to do. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Diane Holland, 26 Northbridge Place. I want to thank the committee for allowing us to speak after you have made your public comments. I don't have anything that I found in your comments today that I need to comment on, but thank you just the same. My second issue is, Mr. Brazel, you have over the years done a wonderful job of communicating with anyone within the town through your newsletter. Now that you are mayor, Do you anticipate continuing that level of communication?
I do foresee that I will continue personally communicating with residents. That's what I've done even when I was on the committee before. Now that I'm mayor, I don't see that changing. But we are going to provide a broader audience with more information about the township. So anybody who signed up for the municipal messenger, who might not be getting my private newsletter, will be getting more information from us. So it gives me the opportunity to plug the municipal messenger. If you sign up online, we will be sending out more information to the general public.
Personally, I think that your commentary as mayor belongs in a town message rather than personal. As somebody who's sitting on the committee, that's fine. But as mayor, you are the face of this town. And an independent message that has not been vetted by the rest of the committee or our legal individual that's not what I want. That's my view.
Can you clarify that? My personal opinion is not what you're looking for. It is what you're looking for.
That your communication with us now should be through an official channel. And you have opened things up for us to come and speak, but in general, I think it should be more an official channel.
Very good. So it has been a habit of previous mayors to publish a post-meeting mayoral recap, which I plan on doing, and I will put more information into that, because it is what we called it, a mayor's recap of the meeting. Yeah.
Through town communication.
Through the online messenger system.
Okay.
So everybody who signs up for that will be able to read it.
Oh yeah. Good.
Very good. Thank you for your comments.
Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road. I'd also like to thank you for recognizing Joan Ferrari today. Having seen her, the questions she's asked in her participation on the Board of Adjustment for the last long number of years, I've learned a lot just listening to her and her questions and her reflections on things, and from the questions she's asked. It's a good touch with the Father Giles. Ceremony and tributes, these type of things are very important and well received by this resident, so thank you for that. I'd also like to thank the Township Committee for the improvements, enhancements to the agenda, the addition of the extra line that further clarifies what the ordinance is being introduced is very helpful, as well as the draft agenda was out last week, which is also very helpful, so if you can continue to publish drafts earlier, certainly appreciate it. I do have one suggestion and request for the agendas going forward for the Planning Board and also for the Board of Adjustment as well. And I think I've heard it referenced here several times, which is when you refer to tax lot and block numbers, sometimes that can be a little mysterious to residents. So anything that the administration can do to sort of put actual physical addresses on those would help residents be more informed of what's happening where. So I appreciate that consideration. I think that would be a good improvement to consider.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is there any legal issues with that? No? Okay. Very good. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you. Things are a little out of order here tonight with the, you've already made your comments, so we're sort of in a reverse situation here. So first of all, the change in pace and consciousness, sort of I was just hearing the dialogue in the presentation of the entire committee is very well appreciated. So I think it's welcome, so thank you for that. I do have some questions on the resolutions, and I'll try to just get through them quickly. The first one is 1719, and that's regarding the administration that looks like a co-unit. So is the intention of this program or this resolution is sort of we pay a fee to someone to just keep track of our COA units and where they're allocated, our calculations, our formulas, or what is the purpose of this resolution?
It's the same one that we've repeated to do over the past 9 years. They are our administrative agent, and they handle all of our COA for the for-sale units. They do all the vetting of any applicants, and they coordinate all of the resales for them, or sometimes they are contracted out by, as they did with Namian, to handle the new affordable units at that location. So they are our administrative agent for our affordable housing.
Thank you. 2519 related to animal control services, and I know we just referenced earlier in the meeting about picking up dead deer or dead animals on the side of the road. Is this separate from that type of activity, or what is this?
This is for domestic animals.
And that's a 2-year, so is that 2-year contract, is that per year $37,000, or is that over the course of the 2 years?
That's per year, sir.
And what's an example, like if a dog is loosened, what?
They handle any of our animal complaints involving deer, like we have a significant cat issue at a residence. They were instrumental on that. They handle dogs running at large. They handle all of our dangerous dogs. We've had complaints of dangerous dogs that have to be impounded and modified, and they do that. And then they also make sure that when they are out, you know, the dogs that are running at large are licensed and those kinds of things, and then they're part of the authority to then sign complaints if required to do that and appear in court, to also go on that complaints, and then dealing with the issues that unfortunately we have with the hoarding of animals. That is an ongoing issue, and it's a fee that's based on population as part of it.
Population of our town?
Correct.
Versus animal population that's registered or anything?
That is correct.
Thank you. 2619, just curious, it's authorizing an agreement, it's not a contract, there's no dollar amount tied to it. Is there any financials involved there at all?
It's our premium with our JIF, and they get 6% of that premium back to them. It's an annual contract that we do for coordinating all of our certificates of insurance, working with our joint insurance fund, and providing risk management consulting services to the township.
And when Mr. Quinn says JIF, it's, as he said, it's joint insurance fund. It's like an insurance co-op that a lot of towns come together to share risk across our town. So we all pay a premium into it, and we share the risks that occur across our town. So one town doesn't get slammed by
It's
a
like
big
reinsurance or sort of
I'm not familiar with reinsurance, but
No.
spreading the risk or...
There's a number of JIFs, there's 20 plus that are in the state of New Jersey. It's mostly government entities. They pull their resources together because it's far cheaper for the municipalities to work together than to go out to the general market for insurance, whether it be...
Get more like a group rate on something or...
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Two more, 3318, the change, is that a change order or is it a charge order?
That is a change order that finishes up the Western Avenue project.
Okay, and so for the, this is for, so, just, I mean, line striping, I mean, I know obviously anything can be technical and complicated, but the additional, you know, it's adding, I think, about, 12% onto the original contract. I mean, line striping seems pretty straightforward, but I guess there's some complexities to it that was the change order.
Correct, and we had a number of road projects also, and this primarily dealt with Western Avenue when we did the culvert project there, getting that repaved, and then we did a number of striping for the entire length of Western Avenue, including the double yellow lines and then hard lines.
Okay, and then the last one for Core 9 Field, 3419, the additional $29,000 to be, it looks like the way I read it is there's an NJDEP regulation that needs to be monitored or maintained, or is this something that was unforeseen?
As we've discussed a number of times, when we got approval to do that field, we had to meet a number of NJDEP regulations, including monitoring, testing of the methane gas underneath. We're on a 30-year period with DEP, and we have to continue doing that several times, 4 times a year, and Suburban is going to do that testing to meet the mandates of NJDEP. We are hopeful that once we come back after a number of years with no methane gas, that we can relax that requirement by NJDEP.
So it is conceivable that that could be dropped off in upcoming years if the remediation is deemed?
Certainly hopeful.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
it is going to be a cost that we have to bear for this year, and we'll see about next year.
Was it a known cost that we knew like halfway through the project? Is this something that we just learned about recently, or I'm just trying to figure out why, or understand why it's coming down? Is it coming down because the project is near completion and this is going to kick in now? Or?
That is correct.
Yeah, so we're adding on that monitoring portion to the contract that wasn't there previously.
So you're ending the contract to...
Right, this is the consulting engineer. Now that the field is complete, we started the monitoring last year, and now we have to continue it from year to year until we get relaxed by DEP for doing the testing.
Thank you. And then just a few questions, not related to the resolutions. Mr. Kuhn, there's you might, I think this came up at previous committee meetings, or there's a mobile, what's seen as a mobile cell tower up on a hill that sits on top near the old Honeywell track. And it's outside the technical center there. I don't know, it's a cell tower, it's mobile. It gives off a pulsating light that lights up sort of, the whole area, a quarter mile. Is that going to be
It's required by the FAA for the lights because of the airport.
So is that going to become permanent, or?
That already was permanent. And but as part of the radio frequencies for police, fire, EMS, it's not mobile.
So, I'm sorry, radio frequency for EMS, it's got a...
Our police department, our fire department,
Right.
all their radio communications.
And what was
are
the
off
tie-in
that
with the
tower.
airport? So it's
And the light is
purposes?
there, the blinking light is required by the FAA because they're so close to the airport that light has to be there to show where the tower is so no planes hit the tower.
Thank you.
Is that tower tied into the county dispatch system?
Yes, it is with our dispatch system.
Thank you. And any idea what the work is going on off Punchbowl? I did see some activity. They opened up a new gate in the fence there along Punchbowl. There's some construction activity going on what is the St. East property. Does that have anything to do, would you happen to know what that's for?
I do not.
Is that, okay. And so I guess the determination would be where the border is, that could conceivably be for Park. Is that correct?
I will check tomorrow.
Thank you. And then
Have you seen any unusual activity in there?
Well,
Or
no,
just
there's-
or just a hole in the fence?
No, there's a backhoe there, there's construction equipment, there's
Gravel.
I said there's gravel all out. I don't know, it looks like they're getting ready to lay a new road to come in to do something. I'm just curious what that might be, or have any update on what that is. It's a lot of gravel.
Which side of the golf course entrance is it on?
South side.
Right when you come out the entrance to the golf club, coming up.
You're talking about the same side as Liberty Green, right?
Yes, correct.
Right across from the driveway of the golf course?
Not right across, maybe about, you make a right out of there, maybe about 50 yards up on the left.
Okay.
Thank you. And last is, I know as part of the general development plan and the rezone former Honeywell track, well, the township was picking up 14 acres of open space at some point on the backside of that property up by along the traction line. How would residents, what committee or where would we learn more about how that use is going to be appropriated, or plans or designs or ideas, or how would we learn about that throughout the course of the upcoming year?
Well, we don't own the property yet, and once we do, I'm sure the township committee will come out with something.
But do we know the lay of which 14 acres it is?
Yes, we do.
So would there be anything preventing us from beginning to, mind share on ideas with how to use it before we actually own it?
We don't own it yet. We haven't moved forward on it.
What are some,
Have we surveyed it? Do we know what the survey looks like, the lay of land there?
It's identified, we should press them for the deed.
yeah, I know that we're recently in front of, I think it was this body or the planning board asking for a 6-month extension on the way I
Right.
understood it was they were doing some construction of it, so it seemed like the turnover to the township was going to be imminent at some point here within the next year. I just was
Right.
wondering.
They got an extension on that because of the construction that's going on, and we'll take it over after the construction is completed or at the end of that period that they requested it.
Okay.
And I have a question also relating to that property. There's a gatehouse as you come through that back gate. Is that going to be part of our parcel?
It is.
It is?
And we've looked at that, but, there's a number of issues with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Something for our Recreation Committee to look at. Take note.
Hi, Joe Adamonte, 52 Fairmount. Since I've been here for maybe 35 years, just down from where I live, there's a green strip, which was always known as a preserve between East and West Lakes, and you may not be familiar with it. Back in July, and actually prior to that, some residents and the township also was concerned about some trees that might be falling, some dangerous situations with that, with ash trees and so on. The ash trees have been labeled, they're due to be removed. I think there were something like 46 trees in addition that were due to be removed. However, some of us have noticed, and my wife pointed this out to me just the other day, that the removal is going a bit far, and I'm concerned that it's a bit overzealous. I walked down there, drove down there today, and I noticed that many trees that were down there, oh, by the way, let me back up. In July, some of us did a walk around with some of the township officials, including Mr. Quinn, Mr. Fulch, Mr. Sisler, Mr. Mancuso, I think you were there too. And many people pointed out things of concern to be removed. And one of the things I said was that if sufficient care wasn't taken downstream of that preserve, siltation would occur because of wholesale destruction or removal of trees if adequate care wasn't taken. I think that might happen. Downstream is the Atno Brook, which flows into the Whippany River. The Whippany River Watershed Action Committee has issued a letter cautioning the township about this. That's in your possession. So there's several things I would urge you to do. Take a look. I'd urge you to take a look at this. If you haven't seen what's going on, take a look at it. The trees that have been removed, and I think Mr. Siebert has some photos for you too, wholesale. The character of this place will be changed. Just take a look at it, drive by it, walk by it, see what might happen. One of the things...
Mr. Armani, you're talking about down trees or standing trees that have been removed?
Some down trees have been removed also. Now I was going to get to that. During the discussion in July, some of us encouraged the township that some of these down trees, which were not harming anyone, and they serve as a replenishment for the soil, they stabilize the soil, they serve as habitat for plants and animals. Those things, some of them, and I think they may, most of them, I think they're contracted to be removed. Mr. Quinn could speak to that. I would urge that some of those be left simply for purposes of maintaining that preserve, because if they are not, the character of that place will be completely changed. Plants and animals will not be encouraged. Also, if this continues, many of East Lake now has been pretty much complete, I think. Many more people, and I've noticed this also, will be parking in the preserve. If there's more parking in West Lake, where most of the steep slopes are located, and this I brought to Mr. Quinn's attention several years ago, and he responded by replenishing some of the soil on the banks. If some of that is disturbed, some of the people who are parking closer, again, take a look at West Lake. They're moving farther and farther in. Some of those vehicles could potentially tumble into that, over those steep slopes, which you obviously don't want to happen. So that's a safety issue. So I'd encourage you to look at this. I'd encourage you to replant, and I was perusing again the forestry safety plan that was issued to us. And in this, it refers to replanting some of the, with low growth plants. I'd encourage you to replant saplings to take the place of some of those trees, particularly in the steep slopes, to stabilize those banks. But by all means, replant them, take a look at it with samplings, leave some of those down trees for habitat. I think they're necessary to maintain the character of the place. Again, if you want to maintain this as a preserve, I'd encourage you to move more towards regeneration. After you've done this safety removal project, move towards regeneration and restoration of the green strip. And you must discourage parking, because if you do not, there would be degradation of this place, and I'm sure no one wants this, for safety reasons and for maintaining the beauty and necessity of it as a preserve. Thank you. Unless someone wants to comment, Mr. Quinn? On anything I said? Was I?
Fine.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Dr. Lynn Siebert, 178 Hillcrest, Morris Township. I wanted to compliment the Township Committee, all of them, and thank everybody for the spirit of cooperation that's very evident. I think that some of the changes that you've made in the sequence and explanation and reports by committee chairs is extremely helpful and informative, and really bodes well for future involvement by larger numbers of people in the community. And I also commend you for the extra transportation and circulation and the environmental and energy and sustainability subcommittees, which I think are also long overdue and something that our community will benefit from. I'd like to just momentarily address some of the things that Mr. Adamonte had just talked about. There have been a number of instances, where I've observed personally, and I've mentioned this to Mr. Quinn as well, in the last few days especially, a rather extensive removal process going on in that green strip, which is a natural area. And I understand and completely support the effort to remove anything that might be dangerous in terms of affecting people who are driving or walking by on the neighboring roadways. But when material that is vegetation that has gone through a natural process and either degraded and fallen over, or is just something that a storm has knocked over but is not in danger of falling on anybody because it's already on the ground, I think Mr. Adamonte's point is very well taken, that it should be left in place. And I have some photos. It seems that there's been far more clearing out and denuding of those fallen logs and other natural debris that happens there than perhaps is necessary. And I would urge strongly that there also be follow-up in terms of some sort of replanting with native species, either low growth or some other type. But let's maybe have a meeting or a walkthrough so that this can be seen and not this continuing very aggressive cleaning out that seems to have gotten to the point where it really doesn't look like a natural area. It just sort of looks like an area that is mostly debris from sawdust. And it's nothing against the workers. They're obviously doing what they've been asked to do. But I thought you might like to see some photos, which I took today, and I'll just submit these to the Township Committee for your reference. You want to pass it down? Okay.
Sure. I'll respond. One comment that Mr. Quinn just made to me is that the trees, some of the trees, and to address Mr. Adamonte too, that have been taken down are dead trees, which it sounds like you're okay if they're dead trees to be taken down because they're endangered. But we also have the ash tree issue with the ash borers coming into Morris County, and apparently some of those trees were ash trees that were taken down.
We have no problem with ash trees. We understand. I mean, I've been to all of the presentations about the emerald ash borer and recognize that that's a hazard. But the trees that are within the center portion of this green strip, that is not a place where people are walking. It's not a place, other than just a natural area. It seems excessive to then take down or remove, the trees that have fallen and the brush that's there, unless it's, specifically something that's going to, still is in the process of falling over, I guess. So I just wanted to urge that be something that perhaps we could talk more about or visit and voice our concerns on site, and then be able to figure out the best way to go forward.
We responded to the vast majority of the residents that wanted significant work done up at the green strip.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll let you speak.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm not.
As you know, we had the meeting up in Morristown, then we had the walkthroughs and everything else, and we came up with the forestry safety plan, and we are following that plan. I meet with Mr. Eschman every week on it. As we had told everybody back then, we would be doing work after leaf season. We would come back up in the wintertime to remove some of those debris and other things that were there. There's a number of trees in there that they may look healthy, but we did have our arborist in there, and that there were concerns with that they're rotted at the bases, and that they could come over in storms and everything else. There was a major concern with a lot of it, with taking down the electric lines up there and the extended power outages that the Fernham Park people have suffered over the years because of trees coming and falling out of the green strip area. So we have a plan. I meet with Mr. Eshman on a regular basis. We look at it, review it. We always have the supervisor up there to assist so that we are properly doing what we said we were going to do.
I appreciate that. I still would appreciate if someone would come and take a look, and perhaps before it goes too much further.
And I would invite the entire neighborhood, because I think you were probably in the minority, not the majority on it.
Well, that may be a question to answer, but I think it's something, many of us have been here for 40 years or more, and we have a very keen interest in preserving the natural quality of the area.
We have a lot of conflict, as you know, up there as to what should be done.
But that doesn't mean that our voices shouldn't be heard.
No, they are heard, and that's why we try to come up with a comprehensive plan for the safety plan to address those concerns of all the neighborhoods in Burnham Park. I mean, all of the residents in Burnham Park.
So I'm gonna take a look at the forestry plan because I have not read it myself. So I'll take a look at it and I'll discuss it with Mr. Quinn and some of the other committee members. And I know you went on the walkthrough, right?
I did go on the walkthrough.
Yes.
I thought it was very helpful. And I haven't driven by recently, but I appreciate the pictures. And I do see a place, if it could be worked out, to bring the neighbors together and have a conversation. And you know, with the effort to understand everybody's views and see if there is common ground. The particular issue that you're bringing up, I see as a question of aesthetics. On one side, people want it cleared out, and you know, the trees and all the stumps, everything taken away, versus leaving the stuff there as part of the ecosystem and natural, you know, just leave it and it decays naturally. And to me, there's that is the sort of spectrum I see the conflict happening on. There was in the past, as I understand it, conflict over safety, but that has been resolved. Everybody's on the same page about taking down the dangerous trees.
Absolutely.
And I am aware that, you know, there are exchanges that take place on, you know, social media that, you know, can be pretty mean-spirited. And it's a completely different form of communication when people are sitting face-to-face and talking with each other. And I think there is a place for that if we can work it out.
Yes, I completely agree, and I think that our association, which has been in existence since 1948, continually, and has been very concerned with preservation of natural areas, is something that we would certainly be welcoming. So I would maybe ask that before additional work is done, maybe we have an urgent meeting and we sit down together and talk a little bit more about it.
Are they continuing, is it going on right now on a daily basis?
A couple days a week, the ground is hard enough for us to get in there. We were waiting after leaf season, we had all the rain and everything else, but once the ground frozen over, then we can get our people in there and our equipment in there.
Let's be in touch.
Okay, see what we can do. That's fine.
Yeah, and I'll see if I have time this weekend. Maybe I'll come and do a walkthrough and take a look.
That would be wonderful. We appreciate that. Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe Mark and I will go for a hike together. Were you there the first time?
Yes.
You were? Okay.
I was going to say thank you.
I'll bring Peter along.
So,
We'll be in touch.
thank you.
Thank you.
Teresa Hadzina, Piedmont Court. As I was listening to Mrs. Seeger, perhaps maybe the township would like to monitor after a large rainstorm any silt, as Mr. Almonte had mentioned, perhaps going into other waterways or clogging drains or whatever is involved there. I've seen water that looks like it's almost on a flat plane and there's just a small degree, and it can carry a lot of dirt with it. So the township should probably monitor that to see if in the future you may need to revegetate that area to some degree to prevent the flow of silt into some waterway or drainage or whatever else they have. I just wanted to historically point out to the committee that during the hearings for the Honeywell property, on that 14-acre tract of land that you're talking about, they have a gate there now. I think the gate goes out to Madison Avenue, and I had brought up to the planning board at the time that I was concerned about that because there was talks of putting some ball fields there. And the issue was, my issue with that had to do with congestion, because right now that there was no throughway from, say, Columbia Turnpike through the Honeywell development, through that gate onto Madison Avenue. But as I understood it from the planning board at the time, that gate would be open and there would now be through traffic from Columbia Turnpike onto Madison Avenue. And at Madison Avenue, sometimes, a lot of times between 2:30, 3:30 already, it's already backed up from 287 all the way down past Friendly's. So I was concerned about the fields being put there because if they were going to play, if any school was going to play there around that time, it would just add to the congestion, number one, that's on Madison Avenue. Number two, if it's a throughway going through that development, it would add to the congestion, again, probably on Madison Avenue with people trying to get onto 287 quicker. And they can also very easily, as some of the neighbors have complained about historically, come through down to Woodland Avenue and get onto 287. So I wish you would be very careful about what you do with those 14 acres if the township does buy it and it comes in possession of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, and we will move to our, what's that? Yeah. Right, so we have a consideration of monthly reports, and the following reports for the month of December 2018 are on file in the office of the Township Clerk and Township Administrator, and those are Tax Collector, Finance, Police, Joint Court, Joint Library, and Fire. Next we have claims for payment, and the amount of payment is $10,815,701.33. I have a motion to pay the bills for the month.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Joffrey?
Yes.
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 Yes. I am going to adjourn the meeting to reconvene February 20th, 2019 at 5 p.m. with a closed session, 7 p.m. a regular meeting in the municipal building here at 50 Woodland Avenue. Again, I'd like to thank the public for coming out. I hope you felt your time was well spent tonight, and I hope to see you here next month. Thanks, everybody.